قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this discussion of ours on the commentary of Surah Kahf, and we are discussing certain aspects as an introduction to our detailed commentary of the surah. In our previous session, we spoke a little bit about the connection of this surah to Dajjal. And we also had mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, through his ahadith, has given us some advice with regards to the recital of the surah and the benefit that it would provide protection against Dajjal. And therefore, it might be appropriate that we shed some light about the personality of Dajjal. What I would like us to reflect on and to note that there are two things with regards to Dajjal. The one is the person of Dajjal, the personality of Dajjal, and the other is the fitna and the ideology of Dajjal that will precede the eventual emergence of Dajjal. Let's look at some of the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ with regards to the fitna, the ideology, and the personality of Dajjal. The Prophet ﷺ has said, I will tell you something which no prophet has told his people. Verily he, Dajjal, is one-eyed, and Allah is not one-eyed. The change in the weather has been sudden and dramatic. This is a hadith that I'm going to be talking of. A hadith narrated by Imran ibn Husayn. The change in the weather had been sudden and dramatic, tossing the small fishing vessel around like a piece of flotsam, until it was no more than that. Its crew, a group of Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, the companions of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, were washed up onto the shore of a foreign beach. When they regained consciousness, they found that they all had survived a wreck. They decided to explore the island to see whether they could find someone to help them, maybe supply them with a boat. It wasn't long before they met a creature washing the hair in a rock pool. She directed them to a cave, managing to convey to them that there was someone there who wanted to speak with them. Intrigued, they entered a cave, and within it they found a short man with only one eye, chained to the cavern wall. Right away he began to ask them questions, whether certain events had taken place or not. They answered truthfully because of their nature. They could feel the evil of this man like a physical presence. And when they had confirmed all that he had asked, the man said, Alas, my time is near. The companions managed to get off the island and returned home safely. Upon arriving, they told the story to the Prophet ﷺ. It was then that they first heard of Dajjal, the dark Messiah. There are three aspects of Dajjal: the individual, a worldwide social and cultural phenomena, and an unseen force. The latter two aspects of Dajjal have been explained and outlined brilliantly by many people. One, Ahmed Thomas, in his book Dajjal, the King Without Clothes, through intense research, he has managed to write a brilliant account of scary facts that bring home the full weight of reality. He explains the social and cultural phenomena as a system that is being prepared by the minions and followers of Dajjal, through which he will operate and spread his evil. The unseen force is defined as the supernatural beings, such as Dajjals, UFOs, who abduct and possess humans to further his cause. Contemporary books such as Omens and Body Snatchers paint a frightening image of the various possibilities. In this discussion, I intend to unveil the first aspect, the individual. The book of Revelations by John, New Testament, contains prophecies regarding the Antichrist. However, over the times, many alterations have occurred in the original text, and the commentaries have deviated from the actual meanings. That and the lack of consistency have left much doubt of reliability and accuracy. Hence, there only remains the Hadith of the noble Prophet ﷺ as the only accurate source of information. In a Hadith narrated by Imran ibn Hussein radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that there is no fitna much greater than that of Dajjal. He also tells us Dajjal is the embodiment of evil. A wise man once asked and said, "Know your enemies and keep them close to you. By knowing them, your weakness, thus neutralizing their potency." There are many ahadith which describe Dajjal's appearance, his height, his powers. Ubadah ibn Samit radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "I have explained Dajjal to you, but I fear that you might not have understood. Masi'ud Dajjal will be short, and his legs will be crooked. The hair on his head will be extremely twisted. He will have one eye, while his other eye will be flat. It will be neither deep nor protruding." Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates regarding Dajjal, red complexion, fat, curly head, blind in the right eye, which looks like a bulging grape. According to many ahadith describing Dajjal, the most distinguishing feature of his face, besides the bulging eye, will be the Arabic letters Kaf, Fa, Ra on his forehead. These letters spell disbelief, kufr. All believers, regardless of their illiteracy or literacy, will be able to decipher these letters. It has also been ascertained from the hadith that he will emerge from between Syria and Iraq, and his emergence will become known when he is in Isfahan, at a place called Judea. He will be of Jewish origin, and the Jews of Isfahan will be his main followers, and they will refer to him as the Messiah. As he goes on through the world, Jews and a great number of non-Jewish women will flock to him upon witnessing his false miracles. Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu has also narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, "Those who hear about Dajjal should stay away from him. By Allah, a person will approach him thinking him to be a believer, but on seeing his amazing feat, he will become his follower." Stay tuned, inshallah. We will continue after the break. Some of the physical attributes with regards to Dajjal.
طوق نجاتي قرآني نبض حياتي قرآني طهر ذاتي قرآني عصمة أمري قرآني طوق نجاتي.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We are continuing discussing the physical attributes of Dajjal. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet who wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them. The miracles and feasts spoken of by the Prophet ﷺ and John, the writer of the book of Revelations, are further clarified by a hadith narrated by Hudhayfa radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Dajjal will be blind in the right eye. He will have thick hair on his body, and he will also have paradise and hell with him. Though his paradise will appear as Jannah, in the reality it will be hell. And likewise, though his hell will appear like Jahannam, in the reality it will be paradise. Those who obey the dark Messiah will enter his paradise and thus enter hell. And those who denounce him will enter his hell, and so shall in reality be entering paradise. He will travel by means of a gigantic mule at impossible speeds. He will cause droughts and famine upon those who reject him, but the remembrance of the true Lord will satiate them. Ubadah ibn Samit radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates from Rasulullah that if you still have any doubts regarding him, then remember your sustainer is not one-eyed. Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu has also narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Allah is not one-eyed, while Masih ad-Dajjal is blind in the right eye. He will remain on earth for a period of 40 days, of which the first day will be as long as a year, the second day as long as a month, the third day as a week, and the rest will be a normal length. He will try to gain entry into the holy cities, Mecca and Medina, but the angels who guard them will bar him from them. From there he will flee to Syria, where he will meet resistance from the forces of Imam Mahdi, the leader of the Muslims at that time. Then a battle between good and evil will begin in earnest. It will be a major battle. Imran ibn Hussein narrates from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there will always be a group of people upon the path of Allah, overpowering their enemies until the order of Allah comes. And then that order will be in the form of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, Jesus, peace be upon his descendants, who will descend. Finally, when the spirit of the Muslim begins to ebb, Isa alayhi salatu wassalam will be commanded by Allah to descend from the heavens. He will not descend as a prophet, but as a follower of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and a follower of Islam. Antichrist in Christian theology, the opponent of Christ, the appearance of the Antichrist is believed to signal the second coming, at which Christ would conquer his opponent. The concept may stem from the idea of a conflict between light and darkness, which is present in Persia, Babylon, and Jewish literature, and which influenced early Christian theology. As before, through the medium of the Hadith, the event of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam's return and all that follows has been accurately recorded. He will descend on Mount Afiq, on the white eastern minarah of Damascus. He will descend from the heavens with his hands resting on the shoulders of two angels. His cheeks will be flat, his hair straight, And when he lowers his head, it will seem as if water is flowing from his hair. And when he raises his head, it will appear as though his hair is beaded with silvery pearls. He will descend during the time of the Fajr Salah. And the leader of the Muslims will address him thus: O Rasulullah, lead the Salah, which will be Imam Mahdi. Isa alayhi salatu wassalam will decline with the words: the virtue of this ummah is that they lead each other. After the prayer, Isa alayhi salatu wassalam will prepare himself to do battle and shall take up a spear. An army shall return from campaign launched before the arrival of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. They shall bring glad tidings of victory over India granted to them by the Lord Almighty. Isa alayhi salatu wassalam shall set out in pursuit of Dajjal. All those who embrace the evil of Dajjal shall perish, even as the breath of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam touches them. The breath of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam shall proceed him as far as even the eye can see. Dajjal will be captured at Ludd. The dark Messiah, the evil Messiah, shall begin to melt as lead melts in fire. The spear of Isa shall plunge into Dajjal's chest, ending his dreaded reign. The follower of Dajjal will be rooted out, for even the trees and rocks will speak out against them. Then all battles shall cease, and the world will know an age of peace. Then truly the sheep will lie in the shadow of the wolf without fear. The rule of Jesus Isa will be just, and all shall flock to him and enter the folds of the one true religion, Al-Islam. This is some of the aspects that the Hadith talks about, the physical features of Dajjal. A primary character that dominates Islam and Islamic histology is a man whose full title is Masih ad-Dajjal, the liar, the deceiver, usually just referred to as the Dajjal. He is a person of bizarre character whose description and story seems far more fantastic than either the Mahdi or the Muslim Jesus. There are numerous ahadith that contain descriptions of the Dajjal. We have mentioned some of them. In conclusion, in addition to the physical features, there is also the ideology of Dajjal, which will precede his eventual emergence. And inshallah, as we continue in our first sessions, and we had spoken some of it in the introduction of this, in our first session, where we spoke of how he or this ideology, before his eventual appearance, would have already influenced our communities, the way we manage our businesses, the way we manage our lives, the way our educational systems are filled with this ideology, that we will be still waiting for the emergence of this person, yet our entire life would have already been drowning in this ideology. And that is the relationship of the surah with the present and contemporary times. The challenges, the trials that humanity faces today is in reality a prelude of the actual emergence of the person of Dajjal. And this fitna is so severe. And therefore, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that recite the Surah Kahf. It will grant you protection from the fitna of Dajjal. And it is not restricted to the mere recital of the ayah, of the surah, but also learning the messages and the lessons that are contained in the surah. Imam Ghazali has mentioned, and we've mentioned this previously, that when the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ talk about virtues of surah, it is not restricted to its recital, but also to gain the deep insight and lessons that are contained in this surah itself. And therefore, I found it appropriate to discuss in depth this beautiful surah, Surah Al-Kahf. This brings us to the end of the introduction of the surah. We had this introduction for 5 sessions. Insha'Allah, next week we will commence with the actual tafsir of Suratul Kahf. Until then, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And do not forget to recite the surah every Friday.
قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري.